If you like footnotes in your history, boy, do we have one for you today, or technically yesterday. The House overwhelmingly approved the bipartisan bill to force release of the Jeffrey Epstein case files yesterday, overwhelmingly, but not the unanimous, because one member, Representative Clay Higgins out of Louisiana, a Republican by the way, stood in opposition, the only person to vote no against it. In fact, when it went to the Senate, they just waved their hands and said, sure, we'll take it and move on to that one. So the measure, expected to pass unanimously, did clear, but at 434 to 1. Lawmakers from both parties called it a landmark step towards transparency in one of the most infamous sex trafficking cases in U.S. history. Now, this legislation will direct the Justice Department and other agencies to declassify basically everything, release as many records as possible about Epstein's crimes, associates, and the federal handling of the 2008 plea deal and the 2019 prosecution itself. It mirrors prior efforts by the JFK assassination files. A review panel will weigh security and privacy redactions before public release. There will be some sort of privacy for folks who need to be saved, but essentially all documentation is up for grabs and can be released at this point in time. The Senate will take up the bill. They basically waved it off. It's going to the president's desk sometime today. It would have been signed last night probably, but he was hanging out with MBS. You know how those things go going forward. Let's talk about Higgins very quickly, though. He's a five-time congressman from Southwest Louisiana, and he issued a lengthy statement to call his vote a matter of principle. He said he opposes weaponizing selective transparency and warned the release could endanger intelligence methods or reveal sensitive names without context. He also questions whether Congress should compel the executive branch on pending investigation material in the future. Now remember, Mike Johnson, the actual Speaker of the House, the boss, if you will, also from Louisiana, voiced the same concerns early on, but then voted yes when it came across because his quote, "None of us want to be accused of hiding anything," end of the quote. Democrats and Republicans are praising the bill's near unanimous support as a message of accountability, arguing that the public deserves full visibility and who was basically enabled by and worked with Epstein's network. The vote actually comes amid some revised scrutiny over Epstein's connections following some newly released communications from his estate and some ongoing lawsuits as well that made things a little bit more murky and not as clear as they were. Transparency advocates say the measure could rebuild trust in the justice system, especially since they started off by saying, oh, the files are on my desk. We'll release them in a couple days, only for months later to say nothing to actually see here. Others caution that the sensational disclosures may actually overshadow survivors' privacy and the rule of law. We shall see, as many survivors are like, we are ready, we want this, release everything so we can just deal with it. Handling release of the Epstein files promotes transparency, accountability, and public confidence in the federal institutions, but must be done properly. Full disclosure risks exposing some unverified names and some intelligence details and some personal data for people who don't need to be put out there. So it will be protected as best as possible, except for the one guy who went against it because he has principles. The one guy out of 554 other guys who voted against it.